You've looked up at the moon your whole life. That same familiar face, the man in the moon, the dark patches, the bright highlands. You know it by heart. But here's the thing. You've only ever seen half of it. There's an entire hemisphere of our closest neighbor that you have never laid eyes on, and it looks like a different world entirely. The side we know is covered in vast dark plains of ancient lava. The hidden side has almost none. Its crust is far thicker. And here's what makes no sense. It's the exact same object. Same age, same material, formed in the exact same instant. So why does it look like two different moons stitched together? Scientists call this the two-faced moon, and until very recently, nobody had ever held a single rock from the side we can't see. That just changed. And the answer is stranger than anyone expected. Let's start with what you actually know. The moon rotates once on its axis for every single orbit it makes around Earth. That's not a coincidence. It's called tidal locking, and it means one face always points at us while the other always points away. People call that hidden half the dark side. That's a myth. It gets just as much sunlight as our side does, in the same 2-week stretches. It's not dark, it's just unseen. The near side, our side, is dominated by huge dark patches. Ancient astronomers named them Maria, seas, because from Earth they looked like water. They are not. They are solidified plains of volcanic lava flooded out from beneath the crust billions of years ago. For all of human history, that's all we knew. Then, in 1959, a Soviet probe called Lunar 3 sent back the first image of the far side, and it was nothing like we expected. Almost no dark seas at all, just rugged, cratered, mountainous highland stretching on and on. Same moon, same age, same origin, completely different face, and it goes deeper than looks. The far side's crust is about 20 kilometers thicker on average. Its volcanic activity happened at different times. And underneath it all, the mantle itself seems chemically different, missing elements the near side has in abundance. Scientists have a name for this, the Lunar Farside Highlands Problem, and decades later, it's still unsolved. To understand why the two sides split apart, we have to go back to the very beginning. You can't explain the divorce without understanding the marriage. About 4.5 billion years ago, a Mars-sized world scientists call Theia slammed into the young Earth. The collision was so violent it tore Theia apart, sank its core into our planet, and blasted a ring of superheated debris into orbit. That debris cooled fast and clumped together, and within maybe just months or a few years, it became the moon. Here's the part that matters. Back then, the moon sat far closer to Earth than it does now, perhaps only 1/10 of today's distance. And at that range, Earth's gravity locked the moon's rotation almost instantly, maybe within a single year. That's the problem. Tidal locking happened long before the moon's crust had time to cool and solidify. So Earth's pull, on its own, can't be the simple explanation. Here's why that matters. The whole moon started as one global ocean of molten rock. As it cooled, the lightest minerals floated to the surface and formed the crust, everywhere, evenly. If that's all that happened, both hemispheres should look identical today. They don't. Something else intervened while that magma was still cooling. So what turned one face into a thick, cratered highland and left the other a thinner, lava-flooded plain? The first explanation, and honestly the most satisfying one, points the finger not at the moon's own tides, but at Earth itself. Picture standing on that newborn moon. Earth doesn't look like the marble we know today. It's enormous, hanging in the sky at roughly 40 degrees across, covering an area 20 times larger than the Earth we see now. And it isn't calm. It's still molten from Theia's impact, its surface boiling at close to 2,000 degrees Celsius. Now remember, the moon was tidally locked almost immediately. That means one face stared directly at this glowing, furnace-hot Earth for centuries, maybe millennia, without ever looking away. The near side baked at temperatures near 1,000 degrees Celsius. The far side, facing nothing but cold space, plunged to around -20 degrees Celsius. That's not a small gradient. That's an oven on one side and a freezer on the other. And in a moon that was still an ocean of molten rock, temperature differences like that don't just sit still. They drive circulation, the same way water convects in a pot on a stove. Cooler, denser material sank on the far side. A slow current of magma flowed from the hot near side toward the cold far side. And as it flowed, light floating crystals called plagioclase got carried along and piled up where it was coldest, crystallizing more efficiently there. Layer after layer, that built a thicker crust on the far side. It's not a coincidence that orbital surveys actually do show more of this mineral on the far side. This is the leading theory. It fits the evidence we already have. But it's still a theory, waiting for its verdict. But that's not the only idea on the table. Here's a wilder one. What if the giant collision that created our moon actually created two moons, not one? A big one, and a smaller companion, both born from the same debris cloud. Over time, in this version of events, that smaller moon slowly drifted inward and collided with its bigger sibling, not violently, but in slow motion, like two objects gently merging. It splattered itself across one entire hemisphere, draping it in extra material and thickening the crust exactly where it landed. It's a strange, almost poetic idea. A moon quietly absorbing its own twin. But there's a problem. If a whole second moon had smeared itself across one side, we'd expect to see rough, patchy differences in the minerals scattered across that surface. Instead, what we actually observe is smooth, gradual variation, nothing like a sudden collision would leave behind. So this theory is elegant, but it doesn't quite match what the rocks are telling us. Which brings us to a third suspect. One far more violent and far better supported by the evidence. This one starts with a scar so massive it's hard to comprehend. It's called the South Pole Aitken Basin, and it stretches nearly 2,500 kilometers across, spilling from the moon's south pole all the way onto the far side. It's the largest known impact site on the entire moon, and one of the oldest, dating back roughly 4.25 billion years. The idea here is simple but brutal. Something enormous, an asteroid or meteorite, slammed into the far side with such violence it didn't just crater the surface. It reshaped the interior, possibly down to 250 kilometers deep. An impact of that scale creates such extreme heat and pressure that lighter, volatile elements, including potassium and even water, simply evaporate and escape into space. Here's the clever part. Two isotopes of potassium exist, and the lighter one evaporates more easily than the heavier one. So an impact like this leaves behind a very specific fingerprint, a shifted ratio between the two, baked permanently into the rock. Follow that fingerprint forward and the implications are huge. Fewer volatile elements means less magma. Less magma means fewer volcanic eruptions. That alone could explain why the far side has almost no dark lava plains, while the near side flooded with them. Some researchers even suspect the impact violently pushed heat-generating material toward the near side, warming it while leaving the far side cold and quiet. And this isn't just a moon story. Giant scars like this exist on Mercury and Mars too. For decades though, This stayed a theory because we only ever had rocks from one half of this two-sided coin. Then, that finally changed. In 2024, China's Chang'e 6 mission landed directly inside the South Pole Aitken Basin. And for the first time in the entire history of space exploration, it launched samples of the far side back home. Roughly 1,935 grams of rock and dust parachuting down into Inner Mongolia. Every theory we just walked through had been built on rocks from only one hemisphere. Now, for the first time, scientists could actually test them against the real thing. It wasn't easy. The samples were mostly fine-grained dust, too small to work with using normal methods. Researchers had to invent an entirely new technique just to measure potassium isotopes at the milligram level. And what they found was the twist nobody was fully expecting. The Farside rock had crystallized from lava at around 1,100 degrees Celsius, roughly 100 degrees cooler than equivalent rock from the near side. Multiple independent methods, comparing mineral chemistry, estimating the original parent rock, even satellite data from the landing site, all pointed to the same conclusion: a colder interior. Scientists had long suspected a temperature difference existed deep inside the moon. This was the first time real samples actually proved it. The two-faced moon isn't just two-faced on the surface, it's two-faced all the way down to its mantle. The likely reason: fewer heat-producing elements like uranium, thorium, and potassium on the far side. And there was more. The far side mantle turned out even drier than the driest Apollo samples ever recorded. And its ancient magnetic field, long thought dead, mysteriously rebounded in strength 2.8 billion years ago. So, after all of that, the first ever samples from the far side of the moon, surely we finally cracked it. Nope, not even close. What the samples did was confirm the far side really is colder and depleted deep inside, and that gives real weight to the giant impact theory, that potassium fingerprint lines up perfectly. But it didn't crown a single winner. The scientists themselves admit they don't know if this depleted mantle sits only beneath that one giant basin, or stretches across the entire far side. And here's the twist most people miss. These theories aren't necessarily rivals. Earth's early blistering heat, a colossal ancient impact, and an uneven scattering of elements across the interior could all be tangled together in the same story, each one shaping different pieces of the puzzle. So the first rocks ever pulled from the hidden side of our moon didn't close the case. They sharpened every question we were already asking, and confirmed the divide runs far deeper than anyone assumed. We're holding pieces of a world we've stared at for all of human history, and we still barely understand it. Tonight, when you look up, you'll see the exact same face humans have stared at for our entire existence. The familiar patches, the same quiet glow. But now you know what's hiding just out of view. A hemisphere that's colder, thicker, scarred, and fundamentally different, one we've only just begun to touch. The far side kept its secret through every single night humans have ever looked up. And it took a robot, a parachute, and a handful of dust to finally start listening. This whole story is a reminder that even our closest neighbor, something we've stared at for thousands of years, still has faces we haven't fully seen. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing. What cosmic mystery should we unravel next?